10 weeks, 9 rounds and 18 individual races. Add them all up and what do you get? Well, you get one incredible championship here for the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. We draw to a close here tonight. Round 10, Brands Hatch, the Grand Prix circuit, the full version here at Brands Hatch, and David Christie in the commentary booth again alongside John Knighton. And John, you know, almost lost for words at how fantastic this season has been. Making a step up, we said right from the beginning, be a huge change from those MX-5s. I think the guys and girls here this season have done absolutely impeccably.
Oh, they've done so well. Where's the last 10 weeks gone, David? I'd just like to know that. It's just gone so quickly, hasn't it, really? You know, and we've been treated to some very exciting racing, some great driving. And as you say, I think the way that the drivers have adapted to these new cars, much faster cars, much more difficult to drive, has been very, very impressive indeed. And you know, we've seen drivers coming and going into the championship throughout the season. Obviously, work commitments have meant that some people haven't been able to stick around for the whole thing. We've seen new drivers coming in literally in the last few rounds and have been doing equally well. So it's been really, really eye-opening and fantastic.
And that is a fantastic point, isn't it, John? Because, as you said, a lot of the guys and girls with operational commitments, but some of them deciding to try and take part wherever that they may be located, might not necessarily be here in the UK. So fantastic determination, and yet again, one of the things that we said throughout the season, such a high retention of drivers. A lot of the championships we see drivers dropping out throughout the season, and yet delighted that we still got over 20 drivers on the grid for our final round.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, checking the scores that we've been getting from qualification, some very good rounds coming in as well. So I think we're in for a couple of really barnstorming final rounds of the championship tonight, which of course will decide the team title for the year.
Certainly will, but the one thing we have to get out of the way first is a huge congratulations to Craig Durant being confirmed as our 2022 Drivers' Champion in that overall class. Down in the GT4s, but a strong, dominant display by him this season, finishing the season on an absolutely eye-watering 257 points for British Army GT4. Nearest competitor, Chris Darnell, in the British Army GT3, 169 points. That's a massive gap of what that must be 92 points or something like that. 98 points just about from Craig Durant to Chris Darnell. So impressive stuff, but again, it's all about tonight and the team's championship, isn't it?
It is. Well, Craig, I think, has just been case in point that consistency is so important. Looking at those teams, it's so much closer though, isn't it, in terms of the team. The British Army GT4 team have shut up the table though. They could still win it tonight. RAF Motorsports, RAF Motorsport GT4s, the GT4 of British Army in third place, and RAF Motorsport GT3 in fourth place. So there's still points up for grabs tonight. It could be very, very interesting indeed. And they've all improved. All the teams have improved throughout the season.
Well, that's exactly it. And of course, 40 points is the absolute maximum that a team can score over the two races tonight. So mathematically, you've still got 5 teams that are within a shout. But realistically, you're going to be looking at those top 3 as we see Chris Slater back out on the grid there as well. There is our newly crowned champion, Craig Durant, for British Army GT4. Your top teams though that are in contention tonight: RAF Motorsports GT4, RAF Motor Racing GT4, British Army GT4, RAF Motor Racing GT3 and Royal Navy GT3. All of those within that 40-point bracket here as we have 17 minutes done in qualifying just now, and you can see there Matty Isherwood currently on pole position, 125.005. So, who do we think we have to watch out for tonight then, John? Who are we tipping in the commentary box?
Well, Matt Isherwood is back. We've not seen much of Matt recently, but every time he competes, he does well. And you can see him at the top of the leaderboard at the moment in terms of qualifying times. James King as well, really consistent performer. We've not seen James for a couple of weeks. So the drivers you would expect to be doing well are doing well. Look at their GT4. Who's top of the GT4 list once again? It's Craig Durant, of course it is. With Michael Clough second, and we've also got Steve Ward there in third place and Dan Hardwick in fourth in the GT4. So the drivers who we have consistently seen do well throughout the course of this championship are at it again on this brilliant course at Brands Hatch course, the full Grand Prix circuit, which is great to have it.
It really is, and I still think, for me, it's one of the best circuits that we've got here in the UK. For me, this, along with Donington and Cadwell Park, absolute jewels in the crown of racing. Of course, no stranger to high ticket racing. We get the British GTs racing here quite often, but 2.43 mile circuit down in the heart of Kent, down in Englandshire, as I would say up here in Scotland. But a minute to go in qualifying, and again, coming in late to the party. Qualifying isn't going to be as important as it has been previously through the season, but even though the Drivers' Championship has been decided, you can absolutely bet your bottom dollar that all of these drivers want to make an impact on that team's championship. And if not, even if they're not in with a shout of that, these drivers want to get those bragging rights. They want to get one over their fellow servicemen and women, especially. And John, you know this from commentating on the various other inter-forces competitions that are going on. There's a real friendly / banter rivalry going on between the different forces.
Oh yes, you mentioned anything inter-services and suddenly the shackles rise and it becomes more important than anything else to win for your service. And we've been seeing that throughout the season here. I think tonight, and because the team championship is so close, we've got some real opportunities, and there'll be people really going for it tonight. And one thing that we've been discussing, I think before we went on air actually, David, we want to hear as many drivers as possible from as many drivers as possible tonight, so during the interval and at the end of the second race, because I think it's probably fair to say we've really confined ourselves to the top threes in the competitions so far in each race we're talking to. We'd like to hear from as many people as possible tonight. Those people who have consistently been competing but maybe haven't got in the top 10 or even got in the top 3 or 4. We'd like to hear from them tonight and get their view on this amazing season.
Absolutely, as qualifying draws to a close, looks like Matty Isherwood up in pole position, and Craig Dunn on pole for the GT4s. And as John said, I mean, it's the opportunity. It's been a long season. We'd love to hear how everyone has got on through the field, and Ollie Wayne's making a bit of a meal of that final corner there, and that will be his final lap on qualifying. So yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic season, John, and like you said just a couple of minutes ago, I can't believe where the past 10 weeks has gone. It feels like, we were just last week we were at Oulton Park for our media practice session that we did, and then going back for our first race back in February, and it's been wonderful to see these drivers develop, and that's exactly what we've had through the different races. We've watched them improve, and we've watched some real characters come through the field as well. But talking of which, 9 cars in the GT3 field within exactly 1 second. Liam Waterhouse, our brand new rookie to the championship, who made such big waves last week out at Silverstone GP, returns again. He is qualified in 9th position. Let's have a look here, other big names as well. Obviously we've got Chris Pauley in 4th, Tom Stevens in 5th. I'm looking at Ollie Wayne was in 10th, Dan Berris in 11th. Again, any one of those top 10, I think, very capable for taking the win here tonight. But here is your grid for the first of our 2 final races this season for the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge here at Brands Hatch GP Circuit. Matty Isherwood on pole position for the RAF Motor Racing GT3 team, alongside James King for RAF E-Motorsports GT3, Ryan Martin for RAF Central Fund, and then it's Chris Pawley for RAF E-Motorsports, Tom Stevens for the Royal Navy, alongside Craig Beasley for the Royal Navy as well, Chris Boland for RAF E-Motorsports, Chris Darnell in the British Army GT3 in 8th position. 9th and 10th is going to be Liam Waterhouse, a brand new rookie for the season in the Royal Navy machine, with Ollie Waynes in 10th, RAF Motor Racing. 11th and 12th is going to be Dan Berris for RAF Motor Racing, and then Chris Slater for RAF Motor Racing at the back as well. 13th and 14th is Ben Weston and Colin Scott for the veterans, and then moving on to the GT4s, Craig Durant. No surprises, as you could tell in John's voice, to see Craig at the top of the time screens. British Army GT4 taking pole position alongside Michael Clough in the RAF E-Motorsports GT4 machine. Steve Ward and Dan Hardwick in 3rd and 4th for RAF E-Motorsports. Dave Russell is on 5th position with the RAF Motor Racing GT4, and Matty Banyard in 6th position with British Army GT4. Michael Tate in the RAF Central Fund machine in 7th position. Well, it's almost a little bit bittersweet here, to be honest, because we've got a safety car, so that's a good start there, John, as always.
Rolling start. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good start for the evening. Maybe saving things for the last huzzah, but again, a wonderful 10 weeks, and I'm genuinely happy that we've got another week of racing, but I'm also a little bit sad that this is the last week of racing for this season. Yeah,
me too. But I think what's going to be very interesting is to see how these drivers translate what they've been doing in the virtual racing to when they get their proper cars out on the tracks as well during the summer. And I think what we will see is a huge improvement in the quality of driving. Not that it's a low quality already, but I think we will see a big improvement in the quality of driving for real as a result of this, because it's been so competitive this year, and these cars have been so much more difficult to drive than the Mazdas that we had last year. But I think that we will see that reflected in the performances on the track.
Well, there's no doubt that many drivers do use sim racing as a bit of a tool to improve their reaction times, to improve their ability and their confidence out on the real life track. So I think that's a very, very good point to be made there, John. Just looking at James King there in second place. A little bit of a connection issue, so he is darting in and out, and I'm hoping that doesn't cause any issues with the other cars that are making their way around just now. But such a wonderful track that this is, as the cars making their way through I believe they're down at the Derek Minter Straight, coming through the Westfield Bend just now. Again, you think of the corners like Dingledale, down at Sheens and into Stirlings as well. Many opportunities for these drivers to get tripped up here.
Yes, it's not an easy circuit, is it? And I think you're right. I think particularly at the beginning, we could see a few thrills and spills, particularly in the GT3s. But I think one thing that I would say, we've had a lot of very clean starts this year, apart maybe from the times when we haven't had the safety car. Well, the safety car is in, and we're about ready to go.
Yep, let's go then. Matty Isherwood going to roar those 20 or so GT3s across the line. Maybe a little bit less than that, but it's still an awesome sight nonetheless. Down into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time of Asking. Remember, 2 15-minute races that will be getting undergo tonight, as Craig Durant leads the GT4s down Paddock Hill Bend for the first time of Asking as well. But it looks like it's all go for the GT3s as well. They're all through the first half of the circuit, very clean and prim and proper. A little bit of leading from that is Russell and Hardwick further down the order there. That's in the GT4, so Dave Russell leaning a little bit on Dan Hardwick, but nothing really coming of it. And quite honestly, as we go through the first half of Brands Hatch, the GP layout here, It's a fairly orderly and a fairly calm start to this race. I've got no doubt it'll all kick off in the next 10 minutes or so. But
next 10 seconds, probably.
Yeah, this is. I think this is honestly, John, been about the quietest I've seen these guys and girls all through the season. As I say that, Ben Weston and Chris Slater have a coming together. They're off the track and falling down the order. James King is off the track. So immediately, John, I'm going to eat my words and say that they did have a bit of quietness, but it's now over.
Oh, Matt Isherwood and Ryan Martin, who's now up to second place from third place. Yeah, as you say, James King dropped down to 8th after his coming off, so he's got a bit of ground to make up, but it's very, very close at the top there in the GT3s, where with Dave Russell at the moment, and this is looking pretty challenging. He's actually with Steve Ward right in front of him and Dan Hardwick behind him. It's some pretty close racing there in the GT4s. But yeah, interesting how Ryan Martin, whether he can make the most of that going up to second, with Chris Pauli now moving into third in the GT3s.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see as we're already more than halfway through the first lap. Right, let's see here. That's Chris Slater, and that is exactly what happened with him. And who else was that? That was Ben Weston that was caught up in there. Both of them are out of the race, I believe, or no, they're out pit lane. Liam Waterhouse did make up some ground. They just went straight back down to 10th position. So any early gains that he had are done. Interesting to see though, Matty Isherwood not able to streak away as much as he'd like to. Ryan Martin within 0.2 of a second onto the back of this one, as we're still watching this battle with Dave Russell trying to catch on to the back of Dan Hardwick, but he's also got Matty Banyard firmly on his tail trying to make this happen here, and this is going to be down the hill then, and I believe this is going to be going up towards Sheens just now. But anyway, here is Chris Slater. Oh, and you see he just gets that back left wheel onto the grass there, tries to keep control of it, and that's going to be Ben Weston straight into the side. Poor Ben had absolutely nowhere to go there, John.
No, and Chris Slater just being very disciplined in waiting for all the traffic to get past before he got back into the race again. Just sort of looking down the top, really the top sort of 5 or 6, and it's all RAF and Royal Navy at the moment in those top places in the GT3s, with Matt Isherwood obviously from RAF Motor Racing. You've got Ryan Martin from the Central Fund as well. So that's why we're looking at this very closely from a team point of view to see how that's going to affect the championship.
Yeah, that's a great point, of course, because both Isherwood and Ryan Martin racing for different teams within the RAF, because Matty Isherwood racing for the RAF Motor Racing GT3 team, and Ryan Martin racing for the RAF Central Fund team. This is back down with Ollie Waynes. Now, he is right onto the back of James King there, but he's also got Liam Waterhouse just behind him as well, separated by a couple of tenths of a second here. So this is a very, very tight battle that we've got going on right now, and Ollie Wayne trying to make a move around the outside. So we go back to another replay. This is Chris Slater's day going from bad to worse. I think this is just out of pit lane and then up. Oh dear. You hate to say it. That's through the left-hander there at Surtees. So easy to do because, of course, John, when you're turning that car left, the rear end of the car, as James King looks to he's having connection issues. What was the way to say about Chris is that it's such an easy mistake to make, because the back end of your car is unloaded, the weight comes off of that rear end, and then means that it's very, very easy just to spin up those rear tyres.
It is, but the drivers, by and large, are making a really good fist of it on what we said earlier on is a very tricky course. Here's Ryan Martin with Ryan, who's obviously chasing hard at the moment to get himself up into the lead, but he's got Matt Isherwood just in front of him. And it's very, very close. And in fact, as you said, that Matt is not pulling away at all, is he, from Ryan at the moment? So this is a very close race for 1 and 2. As we say, vitally important for team points. But Matthew Isherwood still holding that lead just at the present time.
I think the thing is, though, is Ryan's very aware of those points. He's not going to be wanting to make a move until later on because he doesn't want Matty Isherwood being able to fight against that and take that position back. And also, it'll be just trying to apply the pressure to that car in front. As long as you sit on the tail end of that car in front, you're going to be absolutely fine. And Matty Banyard, you can see picture there, having a huge moment there, getting back onto the track there, down behind Dave Russell there. But that was a wild off-track excursion there for Matty Banyard. He's down in 18th position, but in 6th position in class as well, as we're still seeing this picture. In the main, you can see Matty Isherwood leading Ryan Martin from Chris Pawley, Tom Stevens and Chris Beasley in there as well. They're all separated, John, by about 2 seconds, and look at how close now
I'll tell you
Ryan
what,
Martin is.
He's putting pressure. These are great pictures. It's really great to see this sort of driver's eye view, and Ryan Martin's having a go, and it's worked. Because the pressure he put on there onto Matthew Isherwood did the trick, and Ryan Martin is now streaked ahead, and he's just under a second ahead of Chris Pawley. But that was incredible. That just to show the pressure really did take its toll then on Matthew Isherwood.
I'll be honest, that's a very uncharacteristic mistake by Matty Isherwood, but as you said, the pressure there applied by Ryan Martin, just something's got to give, and that's exactly what happened. Now, what he'll be hoping is that the tables aren't turned, and the same doesn't happen with Chris Pawley. What he needs to do is now open up the gap, because he's got a good chance with the fact that Chris Pawley, Tom Stevens and Craig Beasley are all fighting it out as well. But Matty Isherwood, I mean, you've got to say he'll be absolutely kicking himself with that one, and that now means that RAF Central Fund GT3 jumped to the top of that the GT3s just now. That also means that Royal Navy GT3 are 3rd and 4th as well, with Tom Stevens and Craig Beasley. Meanwhile, this will be of no surprise to you, John, whatsoever, but Craig Dunn in the GT4's 4.7 seconds ahead of Michael Clough.
Yeah, it's a bit of a scratch record, isn't it, really? We've just been saying this all year, hardly taking any notice of what's been going on with Craig, but he was an absolute master. It doesn't seem to matter which track he's driving on, racing on, he's actually got it. And I said to him last week in the interview, I just wonder whether he's going to make a move up to the GT3s next year, because I think that he can make a real push in the GT3s next season. He wasn't quite sure, but he's been so dominant in GT4s this year. He's been absolutely brilliant. But Ryan Martin is now 1.4 second lead over Chris Pawley. So Ryan is certainly making the most of that. Matthew Isherwood still down in 11th place after what happened to him. Literally, it looks like a driver error to me, that he was just under pressure and he just veered off course.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was coming through, I believe, coming through Sheens, and the tail end of that car just switched away. It's a very uncharacteristic error for Matty, but again, he'll be, well, I was going to say he'll be dusting himself down and pushing again, but look at that, fastest lap of the race already, 125.5. He is absolutely charging. Do not discount him out just yet, because we've got 6 minutes left to go, and he is lapping 0.3 of a second faster than our race leader, and Craig Beasley goes round and around and around the corner, gets back on the track, sort of, maybe. She's waiting very patiently indeed around a blind corner, but he gets going again. That is absolute heartbreak for Craig Beasley. He is going to drop behind Matty Isherwood and gets going again. In fact, that is Colin Scott that is just behind him just now, the last of the GT3. So heartbreak there for the Royal Navy GT3. That was going to be potentially some strong points for them tonight in that first race, because of course they were up into 3rd and 4th position. What that does now is release Tom Stevens and Chris Pawley up into the mix as well here. So Ryan Martin now 1.1 seconds ahead of our second place car right now, as we see Chris Darnell and Liam Waterhouse just getting past one of the GT4 cars. 10 minutes in, and well, this has been this is definitely not what I expected from this race tonight.
No, because complete change in the leaderboard at the top of the GT3s. Ryan Martin, who started in third place, has got that lead. It's 1.4 seconds. It's not changed that much. It's from Matthew Banyard. What's Matt up to at the moment? That looks like he's going for a position. Yeah, he's gone past Dave Russell to move up into fifth place in the GT4s. So that's a good move from him. But no change in those top three that we've seen from the start with Craig Durant, Michael Clough and Steve Ward. That's how it started. That looks to me how it might be finishing in the GT4s, but there is still a bit of time to go, and errors can creep in at these latter stages.
You sound quite hopeful with that.
No.
The thing with it is that Craig Durant has just been this is how the season has been for Craig Durant. It's been absolutely exemplary, and it's a shame because Mike Banyard going very, very wide there. Just to say as well, the likes of Michael Clough as well. The fact that he's 18 seconds up the road from the rest of the field just shows how fast these GT4 drivers have been with this field right now. I would like to see them move up into the GT3s and see exactly how they can mix things up. As Chris Boland runs a little bit off track there, he's going to attract the attention, I would imagine, very shortly of James King, because he's hunting him down something rotten right now. And 2.5 minutes left to go in this first race of two then for the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge here, our final round here at Brands Hatch GP. Ryan Martin inheriting the race win, it would appear, from Matty Isherwood after a forced error. As you see, Matty Banyard side by side with Dan Hardwick trying to outbrake him, but it's not going to happen. Banyard might get a better run out of that final corner there. Indeed he does. He'll tuck into the toe of Dan Hardwick here. He's going to have to watch out though, because he's got a GT3 car trying to get past him as well. They do so. Navigates the GT4 quickly, but look at that, side by side down the hill then. You've got a GT3 squeezing its way in between. That's not going to happen.
It's gone off.
That forces him out off the track. Dave Russell into the gravel. And well, that is very, very unfortunate for that little battle there. We feel like we were kind of robbed of that fantastic little scrap there.
Yeah, that's the thing about Brands Hatch. The circuit is quite narrow, so when you're in situations like that, something has to give. There's either going to be a massive accident or one driver is just going to give way. And it was Chris who had to, I think he had to give way there, didn't he, Chris Durnell?
Now, I'm going to say that I think Matty Isherwood has had another issue there, because he was briefly up into 9th position after the issues with Craig Beasley and Ollie Waynes, but Isherwood now back down, shown outside of that top 10, so I wonder if there's been a further issue with him. He's now what looks like 34 seconds off of the pace. I'm wondering 27 seconds off the pace. So I wonder if he's maybe got some damage on that. The car's still lapping in a fairly reasonable time, but again, with 14.5 minutes gone, we're going to be coming into our final lap of the race for Ryan Martin. He goes across the line, and it's looking very, very comfortable for Ryan ahead of Chris Pauly and Tom Stevens. And again, we're going to have to get the abacus out, John, and the calculator and the old Excel spreadsheet, and figure out how this all shapes up for the team's championship here.
Yeah, I think it's sort of maybe put a bit of a cat among the pigeons, really, because I think the drivers who maybe we were expecting to do well, some of them have, but some of them certainly haven't. And Matt Isherwood was going so well until he was put under that pressure by Ryan Martin, and he's not recovered, and certainly the car hasn't recovered, and he's outside the top 10 at the moment in 11th place. Colin Scott just behind him in 12th. I think that's been a bit disappointing for me, is that the veterans team this year have really failed to make any great impact, and it might be interesting to hear from Colin during the interval about what maybe has gone wrong for them this year, because they were very, very competitive, if you remember last year in the Mazdas, in the MX-5s, David. So I'm interested to know maybe what's been the cause of the problem there. They don't seem to have had the consistency at all in this series, in this championship.
Well, look at this coming right to the end, though. That gap coming all the way down to Ryan Martin, and it ends up being Ryan Martin taking the win from Chris Pawley. Tom Stevens in third, James King in fourth position, Chris Boland in fifth, Liam Waterhouse getting a brilliant finish there from 10th on the grid to 6th there, and then in 7th place is going to be Chris Thornell. 8th place is going to go to Dan Berris, Ollie Waynes in 9th, Craig Beasley in 10th, Matty Isherwood down there in 11th place, Colin Scott in 12th, Chris Taylor in 14th position, or at least that's what he's showing on my one here. Sorry, 13th, because of course it's Craig Durant that will cross the line there to take the win for the GT4, solidifying what has been an exemplary championship so far for him. Michael Clough in second, then it is Steve Ward, Dan Hardwick, Matty Banyard, you've then got Dave Russell and Michael Tate at the back of the field. So I tell you who we need to hear from. We need to hear from Matty Isherwood if he decides to pop in for a chat with us, because that was the big talking point right there.
It was, and all credit to Ryan Martin for the pressure that he put on. If it was the pressure that put on Matt to claim that lead, but it all went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it, for Matty Isherwood after that, and also, to be fair, for James King as well, because James was doing very well in second place, but it didn't go his way, and Chris Pawley made the most of it as well, and pulled himself back into position. Here is the result.
Certainly is. So Craig Durant in GT4's taken yet another race win. Remember, we have to talk about the performance index and how that affects things, but Michael Clough in second position, and I'm struggling to believe that. Steve Ward, Dan Hardwick, Matty Banyard, Dave Russell and Michael Tate all finishing one lap down, but that is to the GT3 leaders. Talking of GT3 then, Ryan Martin ahead of Chris Pawley for the race win. Tom Stevens takes third place, James King in fourth, Chris Boland in fifth, Liam Waterhouse in sixth, Chris Thornell in seventh, Dan Berris in eighth, Ollie Waynes in 9th, Craig Beasley in 10th, Matty Isherwood in 11th, Colin Scott in 12th, Chris Slater in 13th, and Ben Weston the back of the field in 14th position. Obviously, one of the things that is on our mind is about Teams Championship, and what I also just realised here, John, is about top three are from GT4s. As you can see there, the Wheel of Fortune spins for us. It's going to be a top 9 reverse grid, which means that it's going to be Ollie Waynes on pole position. Now, we've seen Ollie on pole before, and he didn't really deal with the pressure too well. Kind of crumbled and went into the barrier, as I remember correctly. But the final point before we go for a break very shortly, before we get some driver interviews, RAF eMotorsports GT4, RAF Motor Racing GT4 and British Army GT4, that's your top 3 teams right now. What do you think, John, it's been that both the Drivers' Championship and the Teams' Championship has been dominated by GT4s?
Well, I think it maybe it's just that the GT3s are that much harder to drive. I don't know whether that's just the way that it appears, that the GT4s can stay out of trouble just a little bit more, because there's a little bit more support and a bit more help for the drivers. That could be a very simplistic view, but the GT4s have been consistent. I mean, again, look at how consistent the top 3 have been in this race. They were the top 3 starters, they were the top 3 finishers, whereas in the GT3s it all changed around so quickly after some mistakes. The GT4s have stayed out of trouble, and they've just done the biz, really. And but maybe a lot of the GT, as you said, that the GT4 drivers might be considering moving into GT3 next year.
Well, that certainly could be on the card. So if you've just joined us, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the final round of the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. We've done race 1 out of 2. Another 15-minute race coming up in just a couple of minutes' time, and as well as some driver interviews with some of our participants in that first race. In fact, I can see them actually starting to trickle in, John. So we were going to jump for a break, so I think we'll do our driver interviews first, and then we'll do our break then. So, as usual, who would you like to have a chat with first?
Well, let's bring Tom Stevens in, shall we? Because Tom was the first to join us this evening in the to join us in the interview waiting box. So, Tom, good evening to you. GT3 driver tonight. Are you happy, Bunny, with the way you got that third place?
Yeah, I think I was gifted that a little bit, but I'll take it.
I'm sure you will. Matt Isherwood seemed to be going so well, and then suddenly a huge amount of pressure from Ryan Martin, and we'll talk to Ryan in a moment. And Matt seemed to sort of disappear off the circuit and down into 11th place, which left the field open, and you certainly took advantage of that yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's an easy mistake that Matt made is as soon as you drop a wheel on Iris, and it's pretty much like ice. There's nothing you can do, and you're just a passenger from then on. But he had absolutely rapid pace today, so I'm a bit gutted for him really, because he deserved that one. But I was there to pick up the spoils really, so kind of made the most of what I was given.
You were indeed. Well, congratulations on that third place. Let's see who else we can bring into the conversation now, shall we? Well, we mentioned Ryan Martin there. Ryan joining us now, the winner of that race. Ryan, you were certainly putting Matt Isherwood under a lot of pressure before he made that error going off the circuit. And it was very noticeable how you were right on his tail. You were just gaining all the time. But were you surprised about what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, everybody knows that Matt is a very fast guy, and when I seen him getting closer and closer to the outside of the track, I thought he's pushing it quite a lot here. And then I just filled his mirrors, and then what lap was it? Lap 5. He went and touched the grass on iRacing, and that's all it takes. So an easy overtake, a free overtake, which are the best type, aren't they? So it was a lot of pressure, and it paid off eventually.
Well, the good thing for you, of course, is you had a lovely open bit of circuit ahead of you, and it allowed you really to cement that position.
Definitely, it's easier, isn't it, when you don't have a car in front of you and you're having to judge braking points and you can't see your apexes. So definitely, as soon as he was in the gravel trap, it was easier for me to pick the turning points, the braking points, and then Chris Pauley was gaining on me the entire time actually, and I thought just at the end he was going to be able to catch me with the GT4 traffic, but he was just short. So it was a good race, enjoyed it, and a P1. How can you argue with that? Yeah?
Well, great points for the team as well, for the Central Fund, because it is so tight at the top there there are people as we speak firing away with computers and calculators trying to work out how that affects the team championship. But all you can do, Ryan, is just do the very best that you can, and that first place, as you say, is yours in that first race. So well done to you. Let's bring in now Chris Pauley, who got the second place there. Chris, a good second place there, and again, important team points for RAFE Motorsports.
Yeah, that was a good result in the end. I think at the start of the race, I was kind of using the slipstream of Matt and Ryan to keep with them, and then I thought Ryan had punted Matt off, to be honest, but he was quick to claim that it was Matt Isherwood's mistake, and then I was just kind of using his slipstream the entire way. But it probably looks like quite a boring second place, but I was working pretty hard to try and keep on his tail, and I thought I'd get him at the end, but couldn't quite get there.
You were very close. I don't think any of this racing is boring at all, Chris. Actually, from what I think you all have your work cut out to even keep on the track. But you all did extremely well. It was a very clean start as well to this race, which I think that rather surprised David and myself actually in the commentary box, because this is not an easy circuit, but everyone sort of held their ground pretty well to start with. But that's a great second place, and as I say, it could be very important for the team points tonight. So well done to you. Good luck for the second race coming up very shortly. Let's move on then to the GT4s, and we'll talk, I think, first of all, shall we, to Steve Ward. Steve, you began the race in third place. You ended it in third place. one thing that we were talking about and discussing in commentary was actually the overall individual team title places have all gone to GT4 drivers. Why is that? Is it that you're just more consistent? Do you get a bit more support and a bit more help with the GT4s? What is it? Why is it you have been so consistent, doing so consistently well?
I think for us as the RFE Motorsports team, we have got our own little group chat, so we're always bouncing ideas off each other, helping each other. This last week I've had a right nightmare, and both Fluffy and Dan have been stars and helped me out. So yeah, I think it's just teamwork, and I think the GT4 seems to be a little less leery than the GT3.
Well, definitely. But it's interesting hearing you talking about how the team's been helping you, and you've all been helping each other, and that's very important when it comes to the team points as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, most of us are in the military, and all of us have served in the military at one point, and teamwork's a big thing of it. So I think it all comes to a second nature to everybody.
It does indeed. Well, that's a great third for you. Michael Clough was second. Let's hear from Mike now, shall we? Who got that second place in the GT4 tonight. And we don't talk about boring races at all, Michael, but there wasn't a huge amount to talk about when it came to the GT4s tonight, because you started as you finished, or shall we say you finished as you started.
Yeah, that's true. I looked at the times in qualifying and I thought this is going to be a procession, really, because I think it was always apparent that I think I probably overachieved in qualifying to get as close to Craig as I did. So I expected him to drive off, and then there was 2 seconds back to the second row, and then there was another 2 seconds back to the third row. So I expected it to start as it and finish as it started, if you like.
Well, I think there was a massive difference between the top three and then the fourth place, for the GT4 tonight. I think something like 14 seconds, which is a huge amount, really, on a short track like this one.
It must be down to incidents, because you could pull that kind of a gap even with like a 2 second. Yeah, I suppose actually, if you think about it, if there's a 2 second pace difference per lap, you might get there, but probably some dramas further down as well, I imagine.
Good end to the season for you, Michael.
Yeah, so far so good. We've got another one to go, so I don't want to jinx it. So I'm going to touch all the wood I've got around me, and hopefully we get a clean one next time as well.
Well, good luck in the race coming up very shortly, and we'll just finally bring in last but certainly by no means least, the champion, Craig Durant. Craig, another faultless race really from your point of view. You started on top, you finished on top, and just kept yourself out of trouble.
Yeah, it's pretty hard at Brands Hatch. The GP layout is fairly tricky. The grass is never too far away, so I really had to. Part of me was like, "Oh, let's relax," and then I was like, "Nope, must." If I relax, I'll make a mistake.
Well, that didn't happen. So it was a pretty uneventful race for you. Presumably, you would very much like to go out on the championship tonight with another victory to complete a double.
Yeah, I'd like a double, but I'm also looking forward to cutting through the field. So. Looking forward to it. Fingers crossed for some more points. I think P2 in the team championships for the Army GT4 team is a possibility now, but I don't think we've quite got enough time left or points left to catch RFE Motorsports GT4 in the lead. So we'll be gunning for P2.
Well, you've made a valiant effort, nevertheless. Tell me, is there such a thing as virtual champagne in this championship?
Well, there's a real bottle in my fridge.
Well, that'll do. And hope you'll be having a wee nip of that later on, because you certainly deserve it. Craig, good to talk to you, and maybe we'll be talking to you at the end of the night as well. But good luck for the next race, which is to come fairly, very shortly. Thanks. Craig Durant there. Well, there we are, David. Those were the top three in both the GT3 and the GT4s who we've been speaking to, and it would be nice to talk to a few other drivers as well. Maybe we can get hold of them at the end of the evening.
Yeah, certainly will. So we'll cross our fingers to see if we can have a chat with him. Just to give you a quick update then, we'll get a graphic on screen when we come back though. Team Championship standings provisionally, top 3 still in with the shout then. RAF Motorsports GT4 with 210 points, RAF Motor Racing GT4 on 206, and then British Army GT4 on 199. So still within the realms of possibility between RAF Motor Racing GT4 to get up there, so it's a lot closer than we'd think. Anyway, we are going to head off for a very, very short break. When we come back, we're going to have live coverage of Race 2, our final race of the season. Well, a very warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to live coverage of our final round of the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge here at Brands Hatch. What a night we've had so far. It's Dave Christie and John Knighton here with you, bringing you all of the coverage through the season. John, our second race about to get underway. We're doing the warm-ups just now, but yeah, a fantastic end to the season, and everything rests for the teams on this final race.
It does, yeah. I mean, was it just 4 points the difference between the top two in the team championship? And looks like it's going to be an RAF title. One of the two RAF teams are going to win it, but there's still an outside opportunity for the Army there. The GT4s, as we said, the GT4s have had the consistency, haven't they? And they are the three teams who are vying for that overall team title. But wow, just 4 points in it. It could not be closer, could it, going into that final race?
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I misread the points originally when I saw them, and I thought it was like about 18 points or something like that, but 4 points is absolutely nothing for the team's championship, as you said. But also, I mean, realistically, if both and we've seen this happen on previous weeks, the RAFE Motorsports GT4 team and the RAF Motor Racing GT4 team have a bit of a mare, then, you know, there's nothing saying that British Army GT4 team can't swoop in and take the title. Stranger things have happened, but that would mean that, as we said, we'd need to get I'm just trying to double check who we've got in for the British Army GT4 team tonight here. I don't know if they can actually do it, because I don't know if they've got the numbers in to do it. I think they've only got they do have to. Well, they've got the 125 and the 83. So the 83 is obviously Craig Durant, but they've also got Matty Banyard. So maybe.
Yeah, if Massey pulls all the stops out. Ollie Wayne, of course, has the pole position, doesn't he, in the revised grid for the second race. So we will see how that happens. But just sort of looking down the list, well, it could be done. Massey Banyard could do it if he pulls all the stops out, and who knows? And suddenly there's a few comings off, and some dogfights start happening. Anything can happen. It really can.
Yeah, it really can. So we'll keep our eye on that. And I'm just noticing actually our team championship standings are moving about a little bit. So we'll keep our eye on that. But as we said, free practice underway just now, and that has just finished. So. Right, let's see what we can get going here, because I've got to be honest, I'm very, very excited to see how this is going to go. So let's bring you through our final grid of the season then. Liam Waterhouse is going to be on pole position then, okay. James King in second place, Ben Weston in third with Ollie Wayne in fourth, Dan Berris in fifth with Matty Isherwood in sixth, Chris Boland in seventh position. There we go, that's a bit more like it. Right, so Ollie Wayne's in pole position, Dan Berris in second, Chris Darnell in third, Liam Waterhouse in fourth position, Chris Boland in fifth, James King in sixth, Tom Stevens in seventh, Chris Pawley in 8th, Brian Martin in 9th, Craig Beasley in 10th, Matty Isherwood in 11th, Colin Scott in 12th position. 13th position is going to be Chris Slater, and Ben Weston in 14th as well. Michael Tate leads out the GT4s with Dave Russell in 2nd place, Matty Banyard in 3rd, Dan Hardwick in 4th, Steve Ward and Michael Clough in 5th and 6th position. In 7th place at the back of the grid is Craig Dunn, and I'm going to say absolutely nothing about that grid because I've done that too many times myself, clicking the wrong button and then getting myself all confused. But that is how they line up for our final race of the season. John, what are we expecting here?
Goodness knows, I haven't seen a safety car yet actually. Oh yes, there is a safety car there. Yeah, I think I'd have been getting very excited if there hadn't been a safety car, but the safety car is there, which means we'll get a decent rolling start. Darren Berris, a bit to prove, I would suggest, in 2nd place there. Ollie Wayne maybe as well, a bit to prove going into this final race of the season. Chris Turnell, who has done pretty well so far tonight as well. He is also maybe looking to score some decent team points. So let's see how things develop. Oh, and already, before we've even...
Goodness me, right, just at the first corner, already we've got a little bit of chaos. We've got James King, who is deciding to try and get there. He had connection issues, gets back going again though. Liam Waterhouse though, from pole position, from second position all the way down. And I tell you what, this GT3 race making up for lost time with how quiet the first one was, as we've got 4 or 5 cars off into turn 1. That was surely that's going to be Ben Weston, Craig Beasley, Colin Scott and Dave Russell, with Michael Clough all involved there, off into the gravel in turn 1. Craig Dunn making his way back up there. But my goodness me, Ollie Wayne has lost it. He's off the track and down into to second place as well. Third place, fourth place now. Goodness me.
And Michael Clough now has the lead in the GT4s. Yeah, Michael Clough has leapt up the field into the GT4 to take the lead in the GT4s, with Dave Russell second and Craig Durant third. So that's an interesting change at the top. With Darren Berris now leading the GT3s from Chris Boland. Oh, look at this. Yeah, there's been all sorts of mayhem going on there. Darren Berris, we mentioned Darren just a few minutes ago, didn't we, with a bit to prove. He now has the lead. So I think it's the first time that Darren has actually led a race where he wasn't on pole position in this series.
Tell you what, John, they're making us work for our money in this second race for sure as commentators, because goodness knows what is actually going on right now. Dan Berris in the lead from Craig Boland. Ollie Wayne gets himself back up into third position here. You are watching the battle with Tom Stevens, who loses it, loops the car round. It looked like that was completely unassisted there. We'll get a replay to check that one. He'll get going again, but Tom Stevens dropping out of the top 10 in just the second lap of this race. He's going to have 13 minutes in which he can try and undo some of that damage, but that is going to be a lot of damage to that effort. It looks like Dave Russell is out. Michael Tate is out of the race. Dave Russell, it was into the pit lane there, but it looks like it's going to be then. So, and this is the thing, this is so important, because Cloughie in the lead right now for RAFE Motorsports, that's now been eclipsed, because into the lead of the Chris Slater, of course, in the GT3s here, as we get a replay down into that. Yeah, that's down into that first corner there, and just basically all hell kicking off, because Beasley spins back on and ends up taking another car with him. So yeah, that very unfortunate. Just got tags on the entry into the corner here, as we see Chris Boland and the two GT3s fight off with Dan Berris there. You've got a car looping over the inside there. That's Ollie Wayne trying to send it up the inside of the curb there, and Ollie Wayne has a little move, has a little look in there. He's been given the space there. Well, that is a move and a half, but he can't quite get it done there, as Craig Boland forces him out wide. And oh no, that's, you hate to see that, the two veterans coming into contact with each other there. I'm just also having a look at this GT4 battle here. That now means that and Dan Berris is gone. Dan Berris drops out of the top 10 there. He's down into 9th position.
What's happened there?
Berris from the lead of the race. And that now means that it's going to be side by side between Wayne and Boland. My goodness me, this is so intense. We're only on lap 3, and you've got 6 cars, John, fighting for the lead, all separated by about 0.8 of a second. Oh no, that's a recovering veterans GT3 machine, and Matty Banyard getting collected by one of the GT4s there.
And that's probably Matty Banyard. Obviously, that's probably the Army GT4's chance of winning this title gone with that incident.
Well, I don't know. That's the thing, because Cloughie's in the lead of the GT4s for RAFE Motorsport, so they're currently first and third. So yeah, I think that is it at the moment. But if Matty can get ahead of Steve Ward here, who knows what's possible? We've got a connection issue there for James King. Now, we saw that earlier on. hopefully isn't going to be an issue, but obviously just disappearing and then reappearing, that's not what you want to see from the car in front of you here, John.
Oh, he's at 4th place now. Ryan Martin has the lead now from Ollie Wayne, only 0.3 of a second behind though, and Chris Boland in 3rd place, James King 4th. Michael Clough, he's extended that lead to just over 3.5 seconds now over Craig Durant in the GT4s, and Steve Ward also making an impact, although he's got a few seconds to make up. This is what happened to Matt Isherwood, who's not had a brilliant afternoon or brilliant evening, has he, since that incident when he was leading the first race.
Where's he going?
I think
wrong track, mate.
is this a connection issue maybe that Matt's having some problems with tonight? That's so uncharacteristic.
Yeah, I think he's just had enough and he's decided to park up the car. One man who might be doing the same, Ben Weston, ends up dropping all the way down out of the top 10 just now. This is the battle for 5th place with Ollie Wayne, Craig Beasley and Chris Darnell. Here is Chris Slater, another driver not having the best of it. Now, we saw this on lap 1, so this is all the way back at the beginning. We saw Chris Slater running all the way across the grass to rejoin there, and that takes a lot of car control there, John, to be able to hold on to that.
It does. Maybe Matt Isher was going to do what Chris Slater threatened to do, and that's come and join us in the commentary box.
I wouldn't be adverse to that, you know.
No, I wouldn't either. No. Yeah. Matt, if you're listening and you've had enough, come and join us in commentary for this last race. And that applies to anyone. We'd like to hear from you at the end this evening for some more interviews. And who is that? Dave Russell. Oh dear. That was a controlled drift he wasn't, or an uncontrolled drift he wasn't expecting to make. So Dave Russell, he disappears down the list as well with that one, down to 6th place in the GT4s. Ryan Martin, though, still has that lead in the GT3s, although that lead now is down to under a second.
I was just about to say, John, I believe that's what the kids call an F. It's not went well for him whatsoever. But as you said, I mean, look, that battle for 1st place was 6 cars. It's now down to 3 cars, separated by 0.4 of a second. Whoa, that's a horrible, horrible moment for Dan Hardwick. The RAFE Motorsports GT4 car. Again, this is from earlier on then, so this is what caused that RAFE Motorsports GT4 machine to kind of fall back towards the end there, and a lot of damage on that car, as you can see. I'm looking at the gap between Matty Banyard and who is in 2nd place, Steve Ward. 4 seconds. I can't see that getting caught up right now, but Chris Boland's definitely on the chance of catching up here because he's on the tail end of James King. So Boland down to 3rd place there, but Ryan Martin, I think, is now starting to eke out that gap a little bit. And with James King, I think Chris Boland's going to be a little bit sketchy here because this is a 2-3-4 for RAF Motorsports GT3.
Indeed. I'll mention for Dan Hardwick, who has done such a huge amount of work, hasn't he, this year on this championship. You know, a lot of the admin, a lot of the work behind the scenes, not been reflected in his success in the car. But I know that a lot of people have got an awful lot of time for Dan and what he's done this year.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear about that from the drivers behind the scenes. This is what happened with your race leader, former race leader Dan Berris, just absolutely looped it into the corner there into Surtees, got going again, but it just shows you how a simple mistake like that, John, can cost you so very dearly, and you end up going backwards through the field.
Indeed, with Chris Darnell here, we were, and back with Dave Russell. And that is not very nice for him, is it?
As we go back to live action, and again, just seeing how this is all unfolding here. We're over halfway of this final race of the season. It's still Ryan Martin from James King and Chris Boland in the GT3s. GT4s is Michael Cloughy up the front of the field with Craig Durant in 2nd and Steve Ward in 3rd position. As it stands, we believe that hands it onto a silver platter for the RAF Motorsports GT4 team. It's a replay of Ben Weston in the veterans machine, and that is not how you take the corner, but I am very impressed with that car control there. Brilliant car control there from Ben Weston, John.
It certainly was. He did very, very well there, didn't he? And one thing we were going to say, weren't we? You actually, at the start of this race, you said, David, oh, Craig Durant, he's right at the bottom of the grid in the GT4s. Just look where he is now.
I'm saying nothing on that one. It's it's unsurprising, isn't it? And the thing is that with 4 minutes left to go, and the fact that he's closing down quite quickly, you wouldn't put him past taking the win on tonight. But Dan Berris recovering well in the GT3s just now. He was out the top 10. He's got past Tom Stevens and Liam Waterhouse as well. Ollie Wayne, though, I mean, what has happened to poor Ollie? He was doing so well at the front there, and yet again, it seems like pole position seems to be a curse for him.
It does, yeah, because as you say, he had pole position in the change of the grid from P9 where he finished the first race. Yeah, it's just all gone a bit off the mark for him in these latter stages of this championship. Maybe we will find out why a bit later. Maybe he's just not been able to practice enough or whatever. I thought it was very interesting to hear Steve Ward earlier on talking about the support and help that the team they've been giving each other in the GT4s, explaining really why the GT4s have had such success overall in this championship this season. And as you say, it looks like it's the RAF who are going to claim that title.
Where's Dan Berris gone? Dan Berris was in the lead of that little group with Liam Waterhouse and Tom Stevens, and Dan Berris, there you go, right at the back of that group there. So he has just went off track. He's rejoined, and now out of the frying pan and into the fire, because he's got Ben Weston and Chris Slater right behind him just now. Dan Hardwick goes into the pit lane, as is Dave Russell. So I wonder if there's damage that needs to be fixed on those cars. James King, though, onto the back of Ryan Martin. Oh, and it's contact. So he's unfortunately he's been. I had a word that was going to be used in there, but I think we'll maybe leave that for a little bit later on. But Dan Berris, Scotted.
For the late night edition.
Yeah, it's Scotted. It's almost like it's a Friday night, and he's been asked to leave by the bouncers. And he's been shown to the side of the gravel there. Unfortunate to say, definitely not intentional, but it's racing, isn't it? 2.5 minutes left to go in the final race. It's elbows out here.
Indeed it is. Ryan Martin has a very narrow lead at the moment with Colin Scott now, and just lucky to avoid someone there and goes into the gravel. So that was actually good avoidance there by Colin, I think. To avoid a major accident there.
I tell you what, that's both Colin and Ben Weston in the space of 2 laps had to show incredible reaction, incredible car control as we're watching the battle for the lead. Then Ryan Martin with James King. Now I'm positive, didn't we speak to James King as we see Ollie Wayne? That's exactly what happened with Ollie earlier in the race. Didn't we speak to James a couple of maybe it was last week, and he said that he was having a race on 4G. I think that explains his connection issues. It always amazes me, like taking part in a race like this and still being really competitive, and you're using a mobile hotspot to race with.
Well, if you remember last year, he was actually racing on an Xbox controller, so I wouldn't put anything past that young man, because James knows what he's doing. He can control a car on an Xbox controller. He can certainly use 4G, and he's doing so well tonight again, isn't he?
As a self-admitted average to very slow sim racer, people like that really annoy me, John. They can adapt to anything, and it can still be way faster than I could ever dream of being. It's absolutely infuriating, but it makes it mesmerising to watch, because you really do get an appreciation for the skill and the talent that they have got, and that is definitely on display tonight. But Ryan Martin 0.4 of a second into the lead ahead of James King. We're about to start we already have started our final lap of the race. This is watching the battle between Chris Boland and Craig Pawley in the 3rd and 4th position there. Matty Clough still in the lead of the GT4s, 2.1 seconds. I think that's safe to say. You can stick a pin in that one. Matty Banyard dropping way off the back of Steve Ward there, and it does look like that is done and dusted. The team's championship going to be going over to RAF Motorsports GT4 very quickly indeed. And what a race we've had here as the timer hits 15 minutes and then bounces back immediately to 14:59 in some bizarre little moment there. But here we go. Our eyes are on Ryan Martin coming through the tail end of the circuit here. He is making his way. That is going to be through the Hawthorne Bend, through into Westfield Bend, and then up towards Sheens as well. It's a right-hander, and then it's the run down towards Stirling's. It's been a brilliant drive though for Ryan Martin to take the victory on the final race of the season here. Out of Stirling's, down Clearways for the final time, underneath the bridge, and then over into Clark Curve. Race number 20 of a 20 race season here for the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. And it goes the way of Ryan Martin for RAF Central Fund GT3. James King's going to come across the line to take second place for RAFE Motorsports. Chris Boland for RAFE Motorsports. And then Craig Pawley for RAFE Motorsports, with Craig Beasley taking 5th position for Royal Navy GT3. We turn our attention though to the GT4s, and coming across the line and taking the team's championship is a huge congratulations to Cloughie himself for RAF Motor Racing GT3. For
GT4
RAF Motorsports, GT4. Thank you very much for that, John. He got there sort of eventually. But wow, what a finish to this race. Steve Ward is going to come across the line and finish, but this is it for the team's championship. It's been a brilliant display, and despite the dominance from Craig Durant, it wasn't quite enough to get the team's championship for British Army GT4, but try as they might. But Michael Clough comes across the line to win the championship for RAFE Motorsports GT4. And John, I mean, all that we've got left now to do is look back on what's been an absolutely incredible season.
Yeah, it certainly has. And congratulations, Ryan Martin, to get a double tonight. He's obviously won the first race as well this evening. So to win 2 out of 2 in the last 2 races of the season is pretty good going, and you'll be absolutely thrilled with that. James King, excellent second place. Chris Boland with the 3rd. Craig Pawley 4th, and as you say, Craig Beasley in 5th. But yeah, Michael Clough, that's just a great way to end the season with that team championship for the RAFE Motorsports GT4s. So close at the end. Just 6 points going into that last race, but they did it, and he pulled it out the bag with Craig Durant in second place there. Again, a brilliant performance from him, coming from last place on the grid. And it sums up the GT4 season, really. Absolutely brilliant. They've all been superb, but we've had such fun, haven't we, really, watching this over the last 10 weeks, David. It's been a great way to spend a Tuesday evening.
It absolutely has. It's been a total privilege for me to be part of this. So grateful to be asked by the team at RAFE Motorsports to come on board. And John, it's been an absolute pleasure with yourself, and I've really enjoyed every single moment of it. And part of the enjoyment comes from all of the post-race interviews, which is what we're about to get tucked into almost immediately. So, John, for the final time this season, who would you like to have a chat with?
Well, let's bring in Chris Boland, I think, first of all. Chris Sideshow is hanging on in there, waiting to talk to us. Chris, good evening to you, and well, what a night.
Yeah, not too shabby. Shame it couldn't have gone better throughout the whole of the season like that. I know I've had the pace all year, but nice to finish on a high note.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's and the GT3s, obviously, your sister team from the GT4s ended up as the champions this year. So from an RAF point of view, you'll be pretty happy with that. But from your own point of view, what have you learned from this kind of racing this year?
Again, it seems to be just another step forward from what we did the previous year with the Mazdas. It's brought the guys on. The racing throughout the years got better and better, more consistency. Again, the point scoring system seems to have helped with that as well. So,
I think the point scoring system has made it very interesting indeed. But a third place tonight in that race, and it was nip and tuck, wasn't it, all the way? There was, I think, there were more changes of leadership in that race than I can remember for a very, very long time. But those like yourself who hung on in there, you got the result.
Yeah, I think when I was following Darren when he was leading, he ran wide going onto the back circuit. Unfortunately, I sort of followed him a little. If I'd have made that turn, I think I could have probably pulled away and maybe had a gap to hold on for the win, but not to be.
Well, Chris, great end to the season for you, and I'm sure you can't wait for the 2023 season, although there's probably a busy season on the track awaiting you somewhere. Is it motorcycles?
No, that's I'm purely sim now. Purely sim, so I'll be concentrating on whatever class we decide to go to next year. Okay,
well, good luck with that, and great to talk to you, and congratulations on that third place tonight.
Thanks,
I think the next person that we can probably speak to is Craig Durant. Yeah, Craig, a second place tonight to add to your victory earlier on, just to cement that team title. And what a season, what a year it's been for you, Craig.
Yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. The first season we had last year in the MX5s was great fun. I had some really good battles with Chris later. I really got to know the guys really well. So glad to be back for the second season. Bridesmaid in the first one, and then take the win in the second one. I couldn't ask for more. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for the broadcast team and all the RF team behind the scenes organising it. It's been great.
Yeah, well, good stuff. What are you going to do next year? Are you going to stick with the GT4s? Or are you going to wait and see what happens, or maybe even jump into the hot seat of a GT3 next year if you can?
I don't think I'm going to get away with driving the GT4 again.
No.
We'll see what happens. There's lots of conversations how they're going to run it from, or how we're going to run it from the future. We'll see, but obviously I'm going to have to take a step up, I think.
There'll be a lot of relieved drivers out there, I think, to hear you say that. But I think we've said it several times, Craig, but many congratulations on a fantastic season and that championship. So go and enjoy that drop of champagne you're going to indulge yourself with after the racing had finished tonight. Well done to you. James Kigg can join us now. James, I think we were discussing whether you were working on your connection tonight. Were you working on 4G this evening?
Yeah, for some reason my internet's been a bit hit and miss most of the season, really. Every now and again it comes up, and obviously tonight wasn't one of its best ones, but thankfully I didn't get involved in the incidents because of it. So
you still got a second place tonight in that last race.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was certainly an explosive race. I had a few moments where I panicked and thought this might be the end, but we got through it cleanly. And for the team as well, the eMotorsports team coming second, third, and fourth was a brilliant effort from the guys.
It certainly was. Well done to you, and hopefully get those connections sorted in time for next year. And when the virtual racing starts again, a load of people wanted to talk to. I'd like to talk to Dan Hardwick this evening. Dan, a fifth place tonight in the GT4s, but you've done so much work behind the scenes this year, not reflected in what you've been able to do on the track. But I suppose that comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just literally saying that in the chat room there. I think sometimes my mind's been on one eye on the getting the results sorted out, and one eye on trying to keep on the track, and it hasn't always gone the way it should have done. But I've done some stats in the back, and actually The recovery drives have been quite good, but just the one incident with the consistency score just seems to wipe out my my scoring. But generally, been thereabouts, and it's been a really enjoyable. I mean, it's been fantastic to get 20 cars on the grid every week at least. Is amazing, and thanks to all the drivers for coming back each week and doing some great driving. It's been really really good.
That's something that David and I have been saying, that you don't often see that in these sort of championships where, no matter how badly or how well drivers have been doing from one week to the next, if they're having a bad patch, they sometimes just drop out. But that certainly hasn't happened in this championship at all.
No, and whether that's the consistency scoring, whether that's the two classes, we're not quite sure what the secret ingredient was this year, but it's worked, and we're going to go away in the off season and get a bit of a committee together and work on it for next year and come back bigger and stronger for next year. But to try and improve on this year, well, there's not a lot we could improve on. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been great to be part of it and to enjoy. Thanks a lot, Craig, for your time. Good to talk to you this evening. Michael Clough is there with us again tonight. Michael, I'm sure that it's so much of it a team game, but rather nice to be the driver that takes the team over the line to win that team title tonight.
Yeah, it massively is. I mean, I'm so chuffed that we managed to do what we did, because we've never been the fastest, I don't think, but we've just kept plugging away at it. And we've secured that team championship, and massive congratulations to Steve as well, 2 times on the podium tonight, so that's a proper achievement. He came into this race thinking that it wasn't going to be too good for him with a few hardware issues and stuff, but he managed to finish on the podium both times, so congratulations to Steve there too. And
well,
of course to Craig, who's clean sweeped us all.
Indeed he has. So I'm just talking to him, he's had so much success. But there you are on the big screen, the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge 2022 Team Champions RAF eMotorsports GT4. So there it is. It's absolutely official. So to win any sort of team title in any military sport is something to be very proud of. And I'm sure you and the rest of the team will be celebrating in your own way, however you can, whether it's virtually or really later. But a great night for you as well, Michael, obviously with that win and the second place in the first race. So well done to you. I think we've still got time just to bring in, we can bring Ryan Martin in to have a chat with us. I think, Ryan, good evening. And a good night for you in the end with 2 first spots. I mean, you can't do better than that, can you?
Genuinely cannot believe it. I've never been very good at brands, never really raced at it because of that. But then obviously we're racing here tonight, and I think it was just because these cars are so difficult, the track is really tight. That's basically why I was able to get through to the front. And even when it was happening, I thought there's something going on here. But couldn't believe it when I eventually got to P1 and then was able to stay there. Unbelievable, not expected in the slightest.
So can we say now, Ryan, then, that Brands Hatch is officially your favourite circuit?
Without a doubt, I'll be racing it every single day.
Good stuff. Now, to get a double any time is fantastic. But what a great way to finish the season, and that must give you a pile of confidence for next year.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to next season already. Obviously, it'll be in different cars, probably at different tracks. Just looking forward to it. Something else to get practicing for, and hopefully it goes that little bit better than this championship, and hopefully be able to get the top GT3 or whatever we're racing at the time. But yeah, a little bit of progression. I've only been on iRacing a short while, so it's all progression, all practice, all time in the sim, and at some point I'll get the championship victory, hopefully.
Well, it's certainly paid off for you tonight. Well done, Ryan. Great to talk to you. And another double podium this evening has gone to Steve Ward, who is there as well. Steve, I think you're waiting to have a quick chat for us in the interview waiting room. Steve, great night. I mean, to get double podium, to get a third, and in fact two third places. That's not bad for a night's work, especially at the end of the season.
No, can't wish for anything better, to be fair. It's 25 past 11 at night here in Akrotiri. I'm absolutely shattered, but I'm over the moon.
Yeah, well, good stuff. I'm sure it's a moonlit night out there. And tell me, how's the connection out there in Cyprus?
Fortunately, it's been better than last season. Last season I was in the UK. I had tremendous internet issues. But over here, it's not brilliant, but it's been pretty stable for me, which I'm pleased about.
And good enough. And also part of the team world champions, the Team Forces champions. So it's crowning a very good night for you.
Most definitely. It's just been a cracking team effort all season, to be fair. And to get two of us on the podium for the last round, especially being me, having ups and downs throughout the season. Yeah, it's been a really good effort by all accounts.
Well, you can't really ask for anything more than to finish on a high like that. So thanks for joining us from Akrotiri this evening. Good luck to everyone out there in Cyprus, and we hope we will see you again next year for the next round of this really exciting championship. I know that Chris Slater is joining us as well now in the commentary box, where he threatened to join us earlier on. Chris, good evening to you. Obviously, from your own personal point of view, possibly not the best season that you've had, because you were the champion last year. I think you were pretty untouchable in the Mazda MX-5, but what a fantastic championship we've had this year. It's as one of the people behind it, you must be absolutely thrilled that so many people have stuck with it and done really well. The improvements that we've seen in people's driving throughout the season, and also the sheer quality that we've seen at the end.
Yeah, it's we were just saying during the second race that the pace difference, I couldn't see the lap times for the GT4s, but the closeness of the pace difference at the end in the GT3 was less than 1.5 seconds a lap from the front to the back, and that's a huge improvement from the beginning of the season. But I'd just like to say thanks to everybody that's turned up throughout the year. Unfortunately, I've not had much time to commit to the actual driving of it this year. I've pretty much been just jumping on for the races, whereas last year I was a bit better prepared. But last year was a success from an RAF perspective. We proved throughout last year that we could take somebody from a sim and put them into a real racing car, which we did with James King over at Race Remembrance, and we're still exploring options about how we can get people off a sim and into physical sport to use it as a grassroots feeder. But it's not possible without people behind the scenes working on it and committing time. We've just heard that Steve's had 10 late nights on the bounce because of it, as a shift worker as well. That's it's quite a big commitment to be able to support it. So, but from everybody that's taken part and got involved, from the broadcast team to the protest review panel, which it's a transparent protest review panel that goes on a Wednesday or Thursday night if there's protests to be had, and then everybody turning up. So a huge thank you, and we're going away over the off season to form a committee to come back as a tri-service lead, because the RF Motorsport Association have organised this, delivered and funded this twice now for 2 seasons. So and we're seeing the other services come in as well, which is good. So we're going to go away and form a tri-service committee to work out how we can deliver something next year. And then this season wraps up nicely before the physical championship gets underway on Sunday. So the Armed Forces Race Challenger at Silverstone on Sunday on the National, where we've got a 35 car grid. So
fantastic.
Which is where most of my attention's been, both trying to build a car and get the championship underway.
This is just excuses, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah.
But no, great season, and I think the thing that's impressed me the most really is how this championship has evolved and developed from what was a very successful one last year to run 2 sort of championships almost together. With the GT3s and the GT4s has been very innovative. And we were just saying earlier on as well how interesting it is that it's actually the GT4 racers who have won the team titles rather than the GT3. But perhaps in a way that's not so surprising, given the fact that the GT3s are that much more difficult to control on the circuit.
Well, yeah, I mean they are a lot harder, but it's also a bigger field. So in the regulations, we wrote that if one class was bigger than the other, you would only score points based on those that you beat. So if the GT4 class is bigger, everybody gets points just for turning up. Whereas the GT3 class, to just get that 1 point, you might have to beat 4 or 5 cars if the disparity in the class size is bigger. So yeah, I mean the GT4s have an advantage that it's a slightly easier car to drive because it's got less power, but there's also more points to be had per position.
Okay, well, I think that explains it very carefully. As a GT3 racer, of course, you are making that point. But Chris, great to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for your time this evening, and I'll hand back to David very briefly, I think, before we say our goodbyes for the last time in the 2022 season.
And that is exactly all that's left to do. What a season we have had. A huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes that has made this possible, especially all the guys and girls at RAFE Motorsports over at SimSport Solutions and Absolute Sim Racing. From myself, Dave Christie, I've got to say a huge thank you to John Knight. And John, you've been an absolute joy to work with.
You too, sir.
And desperately looking forward to getting back in the box. Here's hoping for another full season of this. It was absolutely amazing. Huge thank you as well to Mike Yao behind the scenes with the broadcast director. Big congratulations to RAFE Motorsports GT4, as you saw there, wrapping up the Teams Championship tonight, and to our 2022 champion, Craig Dunn, in the GT4s as well. But that's it. Thank you so much to you at home for watching. We hope you've enjoyed yourself. On behalf of everyone here, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.